Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. I'm joined by Margaret Kunzio, who's a county legislator, a deputy minority leader, representing the area that we're in Armonk, at the Armonk Fire Department. And we're here with many executives of fire departments and emergency medical services teams from across Westchester County to highlight an initiative that we're making in Westchester County to try to help incentivize individuals, particularly young individuals, to become part of our emergency medical services teams all across Westchester County. As has been well documented in the media recently and over the past number of months, we face a crisis in delivering basic medical services to people across the county. Our fire department services differ from community to community between full paid fire departments, all volunteer departments, combination departments, and our emergency services systems also differs from community to community. But I think we all want to see us have a systematic set of services that work wherever you may live in Westchester County. This problem is not just a Westchester problem, it's a problem all across New York State. But in our initiative today, we're trying to show that we're thinking outside of the box and to see if we can come up with ways that will attract some young people to become part of this life-saving mission, because people's lives do hang in the balance with the kind of emergency services that we have that can respond when those crises hit. We're going to be hearing from our Commissioner of the County Department of Emergency Services, Richard Wishney, who will lay out the program. He'll be followed by our Deputy Commissioner of that department, Susan Spear, and I'll introduce each of them after the prior person speaks. The Chief of the Armonk Fire Department is with us, Carlos Cano, who will talk from his department standpoint. And we have Kate Clough, who's the captain of the Chappaqua Volunteer Ambulance Corps, will also share some of her thoughts. Madeline Contreras, who's a volunteer with the Mount Kisco Volunteer Fire Department, will speak, and of course Legislator Kunzio as well. Then we'll take questions from the press. We have members of the press present with us in the room, and we also have some that are watching remotely, and we welcome any of those questions either now or after the press conference to any of the people who are speaking today. But we're very fortunate to have with us individuals who are experienced in this area, and as policymakers between the legislature and the county executive's office, we're going to try to address this problem to the best of our ability. The person who is at the top of the pyramid helping to make this happen is our Commissioner of Emergency Services, Richard Wishney. Richard has had a long career in public office. He served as a town supervisor, a Westchester County legislator. I served with him in those days. And now as Commissioner of this department, he brings many different talents together to help us respond to this crisis. So our next speaker, Commissioner Richard Wishney.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. County Executive. I'm just going to take a moment to just give you a little bit of background. I think the County Executive explained it very well. We do have a crisis in EMS services, in fire services, providing enough people to answer the call when it comes. About a year ago, the County Executive said to me and Susan Spear, our Deputy Commissioner, we need to look at this EMS crisis here in Westchester County. Let's get our EMS Advisory Board to study the issue. And after a year, they came up with a report. And the County Executive is examining that report now. He has a lot of people working on the issue and how it can be solved long term. There's some state legislation that's being proposed now that will address this crisis. But a few months ago, the County Executive said, listen, we need to do something quickly. Let's not wait until we get all the various studies in. Let's take a giant step forward. And Deputy Commissioner Spear, a few months ago, came up with this wonderful concept that you're all going to be hearing about today that is really going to make a difference in the number of volunteers that step up to the plate and stay with the service. That's the key. Sign them up and retain them. We need desperately to have these volunteers serve their community. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the Deputy Commissioner, Department of Emergency Services, Susan Spear. She'll explain the program.
Thank you, Commissioner. And thank you so much to County Executive Latimer for recognizing the challenges faced by Westchester volunteer fire departments and EMS agencies, and especially for taking action to help overcome them. I also want to acknowledge the support of the Department of Emergency Services, Commissioner Wishney, Chief Dingy, and those who actually worked to make this program a reality. With me, Linda Luddy, Joyce Cole, and Chief Lucy Labriola-Cuff, who put this program together. And I also want to mention that Chief Labriola-Cuff was appointed by the governor to serve on the New York State Recruitment and Retention Task Force, so we are very well represented there. And I thank all of the dedicated volunteers who are with us today. They are truly our local heroes. Fire and EMS volunteers make a difference in people's lives every day at a time when they need it the most. Volunteering and serving your community is deeply rewarding, as you will hear from one of our local Mount Kisco volunteers momentarily. However, we recognize the challenges that people face to do so. In order to encourage more people to commit to and keep volunteering, the county today is launching a recruitment and retention program. The Westchester County Department of Emergency Services will provide tuition reimbursement and student loan repayment assistance to residents who make a commitment to volunteer with their local fire department or EMS agency. Active volunteers will be eligible for up to $6,000 a year in tuition reimbursement or student loan repayment assistance. The program covers all types of higher education programs, college, graduate school, trade schools, or other types of training programs. It does not matter what type of coursework you take. You're eligible if you have these expenses and you are an active volunteer in your community. It's a first-come, first-served program, so we encourage you to apply as soon as possible and get your application in as soon as it's completed. Application forms are available as of today. They are available on our website specifically designed for this program. It's westchestergov.com/HERRO. That's HERRO with 2 R's, HERRO, because it's for recruitment and retention. So we encourage you to go to the website today, look at the application and the eligibility guidelines, and get your application in. Student loan applications can be submitted right away, and the first semester tuition reimbursement applications are due no later than June 3rd. Fire and EMS volunteers play a crucial role in keeping their communities safe. This program is designed to encourage more people to volunteer with their local departments and become local heroes. We hope you are inspired to apply and to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, both Commissioner Wishney and Deputy Commissioner Spear. It is clear that many of us think in terms of having a job, gainful employment, and when that job becomes part of a longer-term definition of our life, we call it a career. But there's certain kinds of jobs and careers that really require so much more of a sacrifice. And first response in any of its forms, police, fire, EMS, and others, really represent a calling. It represents the individual that has a certain spirit inside of them that makes them want to do this, because you can't just punch a clock when you're dealing with saving people's lives. When you're dealing with transporting somebody to a medical facility or getting to the location where the person is having a medical incident in a matter of split seconds, and you have to navigate through traffic and at oftentimes high speeds to get to where you have to be in both cases. And it is a thing that's faced every day by people who serve in first response capacities. We want to ask the chief now of the Armonk Department to tell us a little bit about that experience from the local standpoint. We're here in a beautiful facility where we see a wonderful building and we see equipment and the things that help the individuals fight fires and to serve emergency purposes. But what we really need the chief to tell us about is what's inside the individual that makes them want to do this, and how our incentivization of helping will help attract some additional people to this service. Chief.
Hi, my name is Carlos Cano. I've been a member of the Armonk Fire Department for 20 years as a firefighter and EMT. I currently serve as chief of the department. As a volunteer organization that responds to over 1,000 calls a year, we rely entirely upon our volunteers to provide emergency services to many of who are enrolled. But as a volunteer organization that responds to over 1,000 calls over a year, we rely entirely upon our volunteers to provide emergency services to many of who are enrolled in higher education programs. The HERRO program will not only help our department to retain and assist our current members, but it will make our organization more accessible to people who are interested in joining. I'm thrilled that we'll be able to give them the support that they deserve. I would like to thank County Executive Latimer, Deputy Commissioner Susan Spear, and all those who work to make this program a reality. I also want to thank our volunteer members who continue to show up and give back to our community every day. Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Kate Clough, who's captain of the Chappaqua Volunteer Ambulance Corps.
Hi, I'm Kate Clough from Chappaqua Volunteer Ambulance Corps. I'm here to talk about local volunteer ambulance, especially the volunteer agencies, and the effects of the pandemic and how this new HERRO program will help us. At the beginning of the pandemic, over 3/4 of our people stopped riding. They couldn't ride for a variety of personal reasons. And not wanting to expose people unnecessarily, we also rode with skeleton crews. As it progressed, I'm sure you all know people who realized they don't have to live in this expensive area and decided to take advantage of high housing prices and move further away from the city. So we lost those people for good. Many of our members have come back to riding, but many of us are feeling rusty and not comfortable putting in the hours we used to. This also means that the people who have been riding are very burned out. This is happening not just in our district, but all around the country, whether volunteer or paid. When a town here doesn't have a full crew to respond to a 911 call, dispatch calls for mutual aid. This means that they page a neighboring ambulance corps to cover the call in the district. Because this is happening everywhere, there's a domino effect, and it puts pressure on the entire system. We all hope this situation is temporary. In Chappaqua, we've had many meetings with other ambulance agencies recently to try to figure out some solutions. Of course, the best solution is for all of us to recruit new people to fill our gaps. As you can imagine, it's been hard to recruit during COVID. We're always on the lookout for new incentives to draw new people. This HERRO program will be very helpful to recruit new members. We have a Healthy Youth Corps program with about 20 high school students who ride with us. Some come back to ride with us after school, but they generally have to move away for work. Some of the youth corps are in EMT school, and this will help encourage them to stay on with us through college. Ours is a volunteer organization, so by definition, we are unable to compensate our members for their talent. Even if EMS is someone's passion and they want to help the community, we lose them if they need to be in a paid position. This program gives us a way that we can give back to them, to the people who give so much to us. Every bit helps. We really appreciate the support of the people at Westchester County. I invite anyone listening, if you have any interest in learning more about working with your local ambulance corps, now is the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. And as you can see from the presence of Armonk, Chappaqua, Mount Kisco, and some of the other communities that are represented in the room, this is an issue that really spans across dotted lines between jurisdictions. The county steps in as a regional government with this incentive in hopes of helping across all of those different dotted lines and how it gets used and promoted as a program. We understand this is one step in a process that will require additional steps, but none of these steps are possible without the talented people in our administration that you've already met and heard from some of, and then also from the cooperation of the Westchester County Board of Legislators. Catherine Borgia is the chair of that legislature. We have the vice chair, Nancy Barr, the majority leader, Chris Johnson, and we're joined today by the legislator who represents where we stand now in Armonk. Her district spans from the Hudson River to the Connecticut border, and the towns, part of the towns of Mount Pleasant and North Castle, Margaret Cunzio.
I get to wear two hats today. I'm also a volunteer firefighter with the Thornwood Fire Department, and as a volunteer firefighter, I see firsthand how important it is to have volunteers respond at the call of an emergency. It's very important that we take care of those people who are giving their time freely. Everyone that volunteers in the ambulance corps or fire departments, they have jobs, they have families, they have other commitments, yet they carve out time not just to respond to emergencies, but also the countless hours that are required for training, certifications, recertifications, house duty, any of those things that go into making sure that you are able to respond to an emergency situation. What better way to help incentivize those to recruit them and to retain them? I know in Thornwood Fire Department, we have a large number of junior corps and those in college. We've even had members stay and commute because they wanted to continue to volunteer with the fire department. A program like this is extremely helpful, not only for those that are in school, but also for those that have completed school and have loans. What better way to say thank you to those that are giving freely of their time to help protect the community than this program? So thank you to the county executive. Thank you to the Department of Emergency Services. I hope to spread the word. I've already spoken to the people in my fire department about this. I think this is an amazing opportunity. I hope that we can expand it so it's not a first come, first serve, and we can offer this opportunity to everybody. Thank you very much, and consider volunteering. It is a great thing.
Thank you, Legislator Margaret Cunzio. Next, we're going to hear from Madeline Contreras, who is a volunteer with the Mount Kisco Volunteer Fire Department. And all of us, of course, Margaret herself is a volunteer, all of us who talk about the things that we want to do to incentivize it, it really comes down to the individual. And I think Madeline's story is an interesting story as well, what has motivated her to become a volunteer in her community of Mount Kisco. Madeline Contreras.
Good afternoon, and thank you for your time. My name is Madeline Contreras. I'm an active and proud member of the Independent Fire Company in Mount Kisco. I'm a full-time student, I'm a full-time employee, and I'm a volunteer firefighter. Being a first-generation American in my family hasn't made my journey easy. Having come to this country with nothing, my parents have built a strong foundation for my siblings and I. My parents built a home for me while living with the reminder that they left their own homes to plant roots in an unknown land. Their perseverance is what has instilled in me the sense of selflessness, hard work, and value. They have taught me to not only be proud of where I come from, but to be even more proud to be an American. Fortunate enough to have been born in a country where dreams are limitless and opportunities are endless. Opportunities like this program that help achieve our dreams. As much as I would like to make every call, most of my time is spent dedicated to coming up with payments for academic expenses that allow me to continue my education. Despite a limited amount of time on my hands, I always make an effort to show up. When the pager goes off, I may be sleeping, I may be studying, at times I may be working, but in the end, dropping what I'm doing to go on the call is always worth it. Behind every decision, there's a story, and this one's mine. 8 years ago, the boiler in my house malfunctioned, emitting carbon monoxide, a silent killer, into the house. The volunteers who responded found my cousin, my grandma, and myself unconscious on the ground. If not for the efforts of the volunteer firefighters, we could have died. These people in uniform saved my life. Fast track to present day, I'm a volunteer firefighter for the same company that responded to save me. 60 Control, Engine 105, 5 words that change my life every day. As volunteers, we freely commit to risking our lives with nothing expected in return. On many occasions, the adrenaline of stepping into a situation where we may never come out runs through us. What motivates us to wake up in the morning on those midnight commercial alarms is not the pay rate, but the satisfaction of knowing that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. Volunteers don't get paid because we are worthless, but because we're priceless. There's a million ways, both big and small, to be a hero. I am not a victim of the incident. I am what I chose to become. I chose to be the hero that once saved me, a volunteer firefighter. The generosity of a program like this will allow me to continue my education at St. John's University. It will also continue to positively impact my future and help alleviate educational expenses without limiting my capabilities to volunteer my service to my community. I cannot express the gratitude of what a program like this will bring to members of Westchester County's first responder community. I salute those who will be recipients of the scholarship in the future. Thank you again for your time and consideration.
Madeline, thank you. Thank you for your commitment to service, and thank you for sharing that very personal story. I think that brings home what's at stake in what this service means. And I think we all owe a debt of gratitude to everyone who is up here. I want to lead what few of us are not part of that line in thanking them for their service. The county government is a local government. We are a regional local government in ways that villages, towns, cities, hamlets, if you will, are also local governments. And the municipal level of local government provides police, fire, snow removal, sanitation, localized recreation. And the regional government that we are provides bus service, transportation at an airport, treatment of sewerage, a county jail, and a host of things that you wouldn't expect each community to have. The services that are provided through the EMS system falls exactly on the dotted line between a regional local government and the individual local government. So we as a county government do not want to take over that function, but we want to help those local communities provide that function consistently in every part of the county. And that is what this program is the beginning to do. But as Commissioner Wishney said, we have many more things that we have to do. These things will cost money, and we should be very clear about it, that when we save a life, when Madeline Contreras' life and her family is saved, that has a value to it for which we are trying to satisfy where we allocate money to do these things. We hope that this program will be successful. We encourage everyone who is so inclined to hear this to inquire more about it. You can go on our website, westchestergov.com, to find out more information about it, and we hope will apply for it. And most importantly, you apply for this benefit because it means you too are following the calling that you've just heard to become part of our EMS system. Wherever community you may live in that needs your help, and we want to be able to provide that help across the board. And as we tackle other elements of the EMS challenge, our commitment is to try to make the situation better, get us to a level of consistent service that we can feel comfortable about in every corner of the county. With that, we'll check with any of our friends in the press if there are any questions here, and we're happy to try to answer them. I may have to lean on Commissioner and Deputy Commissioner to actually handle substance on some of these things. Martin Wilbur of the Examiner. Okay, then come on over, Commissioner, Deputy Commissioner. We'll get started off the bat.
Sure. So I thank the Board of Legislators and the County Executive for recommending $500,000, $500,000, which is in the county budget as a pilot program for calendar year 2022.
Stick around, stick around.
How long does someone have to be serving in order to be eligible?
So they have to have served for a year in their volunteer department, and they have to meet certain criteria. So we're looking for active volunteers, not somebody who signs up just for the program, but somebody who really is committed to responding to the calls, like Ms. Contreras. So the chief or leader of each EMS and fire department will have to certify that the applicant has met the minimum criteria, which is spelled out in the guidance on the website.
Well, we're hopeful that this initiative with $500,000 funded will get the desired results. And if we see a tremendous demand, then it's just as Margaret said, when we do our budget a little bit later this year in anticipation of 2023, we'll have a discussion about adding additional resources to it. I agree with her in that in principle, we'd like to be able to provide this for everybody that wants it. We don't quite know the demand yet. And if the demand exceeds the $500,000 that's been allocated, we have the capacity within the year, if we so choose, to readjust the budget priorities. And that would be a joint decision of the legislature and in the entirety and the executive branch. But I also think one of the greatest missions here is to publicize the program so it's clearly aware. I know that the various chiefs and the various departments want their people to know about that, and we appreciate that the general media will put a message out that will also reach people. Very good. Any other questions in room? Yes. Well, we don't know the exact numbers. If you do an average, if you do just a subtraction, yes, we'd be somewhere over 75 individuals and somewhat short of 100. We'll see what the demand is, and then the demand will drive the train. But I think we'll probably see, I suspect, an early rush of interest, and then what happens after the initial stage will tell us, how long range it is. And I think what also happens is some individuals will wait to see what somebody else does, and then they'll make a decision if they see some friends of theirs within the department do it, and what are the commitments involved in it. That might also lead them to do it as well. But this is a start. In essence, it's a pilot, and we will judge how successful it is or isn't. And if it isn't as successful as we hope for it to be, we'll rejigger it. We'll do whatever it is that we can do to try to help reach that audience and give them an incentive to be part of this system. No, the schools can be outside of Westchester County. It's not limited to Westchester County alone. And particularly when you're talking about advanced education, as Madeline said, she's going to St. John's. I'm a graduate of Fordham, so I did have a bit of a gripe with St. John's. But the bottom line is there are a lot of fine schools that are outside the borders of Westchester County, and it's that the student is going for advanced education for their own career, and this is a financial benefit to them. It allows them to advance their career even as they're doing something voluntarily, which helps us in the community. Very good. If there are any other questions, no other questions, again, any of our friends in the media that are reporting on this are welcome to reach us. Our communications department, 995-2900. Joe Scamato, Lisa Reyes, John Borst are with us here, and we welcome any of those questions to follow up. But again, we thank you all for being with us here today. Once again, all of these fine people who are here. And again, I reference this is the beginning of a process to deal with the EMS issues at hand. We have more work to do, and when we have additional programs to talk about, we'll be happy to come back and communicate with the population as well. Absent that, thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.